somebody asked me about the Millennium Development Goals. Um, I didn't think before this crisis struck that the Millennium Development Goals were going to be achieved, most of them, especially the economically oriented ones, in most countries by the deadline, which is 2015. But that doesn't mean that trying hard wasn't important. I don't have any doubt that the current crisis will adversely affect the speed with which those goals are achieved, probably substantially. I would say the shock of this kind of situation is big enough that whatever one's estimate of the likely target dates in various countries for achieving the Millennium Development Goals, this has the potential to cause a delay of 4 to 5 years, I would guess, in that. In terms of the immediate policy responses, we've sort of talked about this, but we could do it sector by sector. It's very, very country specific. The export sectors will be adversely affected. The retail sector in most economies will be adversely affected. And the retail sector tends to be a high employment sector in almost all economies, advanced and developing. So that means that needs attention because of the employment problems. It needs attention in terms of protecting the people when they become unemployed, and it needs attention in terms of trying to restore some of the demand. The automobile industry globally is in a deep, deep trough. And it's a good example of something that we know from ordinary recessions, but it's particularly pronounced in this one. When consumers become conservative or anxious or fearful they will lose their jobs or actually lose their jobs, then they don't defer the purchase of food. They defer optional purchases. And optional purchases are usually things like big consumer durables. They'll live with the car that they have, or if they don't have one, they'll wait. They'll, buy a bicycle later, or they'll buy a second-hand bicycle. That kind of thing. And they'll go out and eat in a restaurant less often and eat at home, and so on. So you can track through, at least based on sort of common sense economics, where these effects are likely to be largest. In terms of lessons from this, I think from a developing country point of view, the main lesson is, in terms of growth and development strategy and poverty reduction strategy, risk mitigation is probably a more important topic. It's a multidimensional topic, but it's a more important topic than any of us really admitted before this. And so risk mitigation means all kinds of things at both the micro and the macro level that are designed to make an economy more resilient in the face of what you would call volatility or shocks or things in the global economy. That has to do with conditional transfer mechanisms to protect the poorer parts of the population. It has to do with whether you decide to run deficits in normal times at the government level. It has to do with whether you have reserves, how you manage your currency. And there'll be a lot of discussion of this, but I think the main lesson is it's an important set of issues, because this may be, in terms of depth, a very unusual event, but volatility and sudden changes that affect both the opportunities and the distributional issues within the economy are very unlikely to be it's a one-time event. So that's the kind of main lesson. I think going slightly beyond that, I would say it's not only a lesson, but it deserves a lot of attention. It should affect the way policy is developed and implemented in developing countries. Now, in the aftermath of this crisis, there will be, because it did fundamentally have its origins in the financial system. It was the financial system that created systemic risk. It was the financial risk system that allowed, and absence of regulation, I include the regulators in the system, that allowed households to become excessive leveraged. It was the financial system that allowed asset bubbles to occur, and so on. And so we will have a complicated process of thinking about regulating the financial system both domestically and globally more effectively, so as to try to prevent this kind of thing in the future. And developing countries, particularly the large ones, are going to have to be a part of that process. I think it goes further than that. We're going to have to manage the global economy better. We can't, leave global imbalances of the type I described right at the start unattended.